I'm tired of my ex-husband's wife wanting to be my friend just because he cheated on us both. I never thought I'd be in this situation, caught between my past and someone else's present, all because of one man's inability to keep his promises. My name is Elena, and this is the story of how my ex-husband's infidelity came back to haunt me, not once, but twice. It all started more than 17 years ago. I was married to Carlos, and we had just welcomed our daughter, Sophia, into the world. I was sleep-deprived, adjusting to motherhood, and trying to navigate the new dynamics of our relationship. Little did I know that while I was changing diapers and soothing a colicky baby, Carlos was finding comfort in someone else's arms. The day I found out about his affair is etched in my memory. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I had just put Sophia down for a nap. I was looking forward to a few moments of peace, maybe even a quick shower, when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "I'm sorry, but I think you should know that your husband has been sleeping with me." At first, I thought it was a cruel joke. But as I read through the detailed messages and saw the pictures this woman, Mariana, had sent as proof, my world crumbled around me. Carlos, the man I had vowed to spend my life with, the father of my child, had betrayed me in the most fundamental way. When I confronted Carlos that evening, I expected denial, maybe even remorse. What I got instead was a cold, calculated confession. "I'm leaving you for her, Elena," he said, his voice devoid of any emotion. "What we had was always a mistake. Mariana is the love of my life." Those words cut deeper than the affair itself. In that moment, I realized that the man I thought I knew never really existed. The Carlos I had fallen in love with, the one I had built dreams with, was nothing but a facade. I won't lie and say I didn't cry. I did. I cried for the life I thought I would have, for the family I wanted to build, and for the innocent baby sleeping in the next room, unaware that her world was about to change forever. But amid the tears and the anger, a resolve began to form. I decided then and there that I wouldn't fight for a man who could make such an immature decision without considering the consequences. I wouldn't beg, I wouldn't plead, and I most certainly wouldn't let this break me. Sophia needed at least one stable parent, and I was determined to be that for her. The divorce proceedings were a blur. Carlos was eager to start his new life with Mariana, so he didn't contest much. We agreed on joint custody, with Sophia staying with me during the week and spending weekends with her father. It wasn't ideal, but I was determined to make it work for Sophia's sake. As the years passed, I rebuilt my life. I focused on my career, rising through the ranks at the marketing firm where I worked. I made new friends, rediscovered old hobbies, and most importantly, I poured all my love and energy into raising Sophia. She grew into a bright, compassionate young woman, and seeing her thrive became my greatest joy. Carlos and Mariana got married about a year after our divorce. I attended the wedding, not out of any lingering attachment to Carlos, but because I wanted to show Sophia that adults could be civil even in difficult situations. The ceremony was lavish, a stark contrast to our modest wedding years ago. As I watched them exchange vows, I felt a mix of emotions: relief that I was no longer tied to this man, pity for Mariana who thought she had won some grand prize, and a twinge of sadness for the innocence I had lost. Over the years, my relationship with Carlos remained strictly about co-parenting. We communicated when necessary, usually about Sophia's school events or health issues. Mariana, on the other hand, was a different story. From the beginning, she maintained a cold and distant attitude towards me. At Sophia's school events, she would barely acknowledge my presence, often pulling Carlos away if we happened to be talking. I never understood her hostility. After all, she had one Carlos, but I chose not to engage. My priority was Sophia, and I wasn't about to let petty adult drama affect her. Life went on this way for years. Sophia grew, Carlos and I co-parented as best we could, and Mariana remained a frosty presence on the periphery of my life. I dated occasionally, but nothing serious ever came of it. Perhaps a part of me was still healing, or maybe I just enjoyed the freedom of being on my own. Whatever the reason, I found contentment in my work, my friendships, and my relationship with Sophia. Then, about a month ago, everything changed. It was a regular Wednesday evening, and I was preparing dinner when Sophia called. She was 17 now, a junior in high school, and spending more time at her father's house as she explored her independence. "Mom," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I think you should know something." Dad's been cheating on Mariana. I nearly dropped the phone. What? How do you know? Sophia sighed heavily. I overheard them arguing. Mariana found some messages on his phone. It's been going on for months, apparently. I felt a strange mix of emotions wash over me. There was a fleeting moment of vindication, so Carlos hadn't changed after all, but it was quickly replaced by concern for Sophia. Are you okay, honey? I asked. I know this must be difficult for you. I'm fine, Mom, she replied, sounding tired. I guess I'm not really surprised. I don't want to be in the middle of this. I assured her that she wouldn't be, that this was an issue between her father and Mariana. We talked for a while longer, and I reminded her that she could always come home if things got too tense at her father's house. After hanging up, I sat at the kitchen table, my dinner forgotten. I couldn't help but marvel at the irony of the situation. Carlos, who had left me for Mariana, claiming she was the love of his life, had now betrayed her in the same way he had betrayed me. It seemed that leopards truly don't change their spots. I decided not to dwell on it. After all, it wasn't my problem anymore. My only concern was how this would affect Sophia, and I made a mental note to keep a closer eye on her in the coming weeks. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of a bizarre and frustrating chapter in my life. The next day, as I was leaving work, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from Mariana. In all the years since Carlos had left me for her, we had never exchanged more than a few curt words when absolutely necessary. Seeing her name pop up on my screen was jarring, to say the least. Curious, I opened the message. It was long, far longer than any communication we'd ever had before. As I read through it, my eyebrows rose higher and higher. Mariana was pouring her heart out to me, detailing Carlos's infidelity, how she had discovered it, and how devastated she felt. I stared at my phone, baffled. Why on earth was she telling me all this? We weren't friends. We weren't even friendly acquaintances. Our relationship had always been cold at best, bordering on hostile at times. And now she was confiding in me about her marital problems. I didn't respond immediately. I wasn't sure how to respond, or if I even should. Part of me felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. Karma had finally caught up with both of them. But another part of me, the part that had moved on and healed, felt a twinge of empathy. I remembered the pain of discovering Carlos's betrayal all too well. In the end, I sent a brief, neutral response. I'm sorry you're going through this. I hope you can work things out for the best. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Over the next few days, Mariana's messages became more frequent and more desperate. She sent long texts explaining in excruciating detail how she had caught Carlos, what he had said in his defense, how she felt about it all. When I didn't respond quickly enough for her liking, she started sending voice messages, long, rambling monologues about her pain and confusion. It was during one of these voice messages that she said something that made me pause. You know how I feel now. I nearly laughed out loud. Did I know how she felt? I suppose I did, in a way. But it wasn't the same. Not even close. When Carlos had cheated on me, I was a new mother, sleep-deprived and vulnerable. I had just given birth to our daughter, my body still healing, my hormones all over the place. And he had chosen that moment to betray me, to tell me that our entire relationship had been a mistake. Mariana, on the other hand, had entered into her relationship with Carlos knowing full well that he was a cheater. She had been the other woman, the one he left his family for. She had married him knowing his history, perhaps thinking she was special enough to change him. And now, 17 years later, she was surprised that he had done to her exactly what he had done to me. No, it wasn't the same at all. Despite my lack of enthusiasm in our one-sided conversations, Mariana persisted. She seemed determined to make me her confidant, her shoulder to cry on. It was as if she had decided that our shared experience of being cheated on by Carlos made us kindred spirits, never mind the fact that she had been the one he cheated with in my case. I tried to be polite but distant. I responded with short, noncommittal messages when I responded at all. But Mariana was relentless. She would send me updates on their arguments, ask for advice on whether she should leave him, wonder aloud if she could ever trust him again. It was exhausting, and frankly, irritating. I had moved on with my life years ago. I had processed my pain, rebuilt my world, and found happiness without Carlos. And now, because of his inability to be faithful, I was being dragged back into the drama I had left behind. One evening, after a particularly long and emotional voice message from Mariana, I found myself venting to my best friend, Lucia, over a glass of wine. "I just don't understand why she's coming to me with all of this," I said, swirling the red liquid in my glass. "We've never been friends. She's barely spoken 2 words to me in all these years. And now suddenly I'm supposed to be her therapist?" Lucia listened sympathetically, but her response surprised me. "Maybe you should try to be more understanding, Elena. She must be feeling very alone right now." I stared at her, incredulous. "Understanding? Lucia, this woman helped break up my marriage. She knew Carlos was married with a newborn, and she still pursued a relationship with him. And now I'm supposed to hold her hand because he did the same thing to her?" Lucia shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "I know, but she's not to blame for him being a cheater. Maybe she needs help. We all need someone to talk to sometimes." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Even my best friend, who had been there for me through the whole ordeal with Carlos, was now suggesting I should be more empathetic towards Mariana. As the days went by, I found myself facing similar reactions from other friends and family members. My sister, Maria, told me I should be more empathetic. My cousin suggested I use this as an opportunity to heal old wounds. Even my mother, who had been furious with Carlos when he left me, now said things like, "Poor Mariana, she must feel so betrayed." It was maddening. Why was everyone so concerned about Mariana's feelings? Where was this outpouring of support when I was the one dealing with a cheating husband and a newborn baby? Why was I suddenly cast as the villain for not wanting to be best friends with the woman who had knowingly pursued my husband? The situation came to a head about 2 weeks after Mariana's first message. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was at home, enjoying a rare moment of peace. Sophia was at a friend's house, and I had been looking forward to catching up on some reading. Then my phone buzzed with yet another message from Mariana. This time, it wasn't a text or a voice message. It was a video call request. I stared at my phone, torn between disbelief and frustration. This was going too far. I declined the call, only for it to start ringing again almost immediately. After the third attempt, I finally answered, my patience wearing thin. "Mariana," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "I don't think this is appropriate." Her face appeared on the screen, tear-stained and puffy. "Elena, please," she sobbed, "I don't know who else to talk to. You're the only one who understands what it's like to be betrayed by Carlos." I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm. "Mariana, I understand that you're going through a difficult time, but I'm not the right person for this conversation. We're not friends. We've never been friends. And I don't feel comfortable discussing your marital problems with you." Her eyes widened, fresh tears spilling over. But we have so much in common now. We've both been hurt by the same man. Don't you think we should support each other?" That was the last straw. All the frustration and irritation I had been holding back came pouring out. "We have nothing in common, Mariana," I said, my voice sharp. "You chose to get involved with a married man. You knew exactly who Carlos was when you married him. I was betrayed by my husband when I was at my most vulnerable, with a newborn baby to care for. You were the other woman then, remember? And now you expect me to be your shoulder to cry on because he did the same thing to you that he did to me? I'm sorry, but that's not my responsibility." Mariana's face crumpled, and for a moment, I felt a twinge of guilt. But I pushed it aside. I had a right to my feelings, and I had a right to set boundaries. "I've moved on with my life," I continued, more gently this time. "Carlos's infidelity is not my whole personality. I don't need or want to rehash it with you. I think you need to talk to a professional about this, Mariana. A therapist can help you work through your feelings in a way that I can't and won't. Please don't contact me about this again unless it directly affects Sophia." Without waiting for a response, I ended the call. My hands were shaking slightly, and I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Had I been too harsh? Should I have been more understanding, as everyone seemed to think I should be? But as I sat there, replaying the conversation in my mind, I realized I didn't regret what I'd said. For years, I had been polite and distant for Sophia's sake. I had swallowed my feelings and played nice at school events and family gatherings. But I was done being the bigger person at the expense of my own peace of mind. I didn't owe Mariana my friendship or my support. I didn't owe her anything at all. My only obligation was to my daughter, to ensure that she had a stable and loving environment regardless of what was happening between her father and stepmother. Over the next few days, I braced myself for backlash. I half expected Carlos to call and berate me for being unkind to his wife, or for my family to lecture me about empathy and forgiveness. But to my surprise, nothing happened. Mariana stopped sending messages, and life went on as usual. Sophia, ever perceptive, noticed the change. "Is everything okay, Mom?" she asked one evening as we were having dinner. "You seem, I don't know, more relaxed?" I smiled at her, feeling a rush of love for this amazing young woman I had raised. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. I just sorted out some things that were bothering me." She nodded, seeming to understand more than I had said. "Good. You deserve to be happy, Mom. You shouldn't have to deal with their drama." Her words warmed my heart. Despite everything, despite the complicated family situation she had grown up in, Sophia had turned out to be a thoughtful, empathetic person. And in that moment, I knew that whatever judgments others might make about my actions, I had done right by the person who mattered most. As the weeks passed, life settled back into its normal rhythm. Mariana's messages stopped completely, and while I occasionally heard snippets of gossip about her and Carlos's marital troubles, I made a point of not engaging. It wasn't my circus, and they weren't my monkeys. Instead, I focused on my own life. I threw myself into a big project at work, started taking a photography class I had been putting off for years, and spent quality time with Sophia whenever she was home. I even went on a few dates, nothing serious, but it was nice to feel desired and appreciated again. As summer approached, bringing with it Sophia's high school graduation, I found myself reflecting on the strange turn of events over the past few months. The drama with Mariana and Carlos seemed like a distant memory now, a brief disturbance in the peaceful life I had built for myself. One sunny afternoon, as I was helping Sophia prepare her graduation speech, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My heart sank as I read it. "Elena, it's Mariana. I know you asked me not to contact you, but I wanted to apologize for my behavior. You were right, I shouldn't have put that on you. Carlos and I are getting divorced. I'm moving out next week. I just wanted you to know, in case it affects Sophia's time with her father. Again, I'm sorry." I stared at the message for a long moment, a mix of emotions washing over me. Part of me was tempted to ignore it, to maintain the distance I had worked so hard to establish. But another part, the part that had grown and healed over the years, felt a twinge of sympathy. After careful consideration, I typed out a brief response. "Thank you for letting me know, Mariana. I appreciate your apology. I hope you find peace moving forward. Take care." As I hit send, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, nor was it the beginning of a friendship. It was simply acknowledgement of our shared history, of the pain we had both experienced, and of our ability to move on. Sophia glanced up from her laptop, noticing my thoughtful expression. "Everything okay, Mom?" I smiled at her, feeling a surge of pride and love for the amazing young woman she had become. "Everything's perfect, sweetheart. Now, let's hear that speech of yours." As Sophia began to read, her voice confident and clear, I realized that this chapter of my life was truly closing. The drama with Carlos and Mariana, the lingering pain of past betrayals, it all seemed so small in comparison to the joy and fulfillment I had found in my life and in raising my daughter. In the end, it wasn't about being a good feminist or a bad one. It wasn't about being the bigger person or holding on to grudges. It was about choosing my own path, setting healthy boundaries, and focusing on what truly mattered. As I listened to Sophia's inspiring words about the future, I felt grateful for the journey that had brought me here. Despite the challenges and heartaches, I had emerged stronger, wiser, and happier. And really, that was all that mattered. The story of Carlos, Mariana, and their infidelities would always be a part of my past, but it no longer defined me. I was Elena, mother, professional, friend, and so much more. And as I looked towards the future, I felt nothing but excitement for the chapters yet to come.